holy shit, he's in his formative years. Like, I mean, they're always in their formative years, but he's so young, and his first awareness of a leader is going to be Donald Trump. God forbid should he think that behavior is how he should treat people. So yes, there's an argument to show as like, this is a bad example both to girls and to boys, but it was that one that motivated me. Well, first to crawl up in a ball and cry.
There were a lot of tears shed.
There were a lot of tears. And I'm sure, speaking of Me Too, right. So the conviction came down for Weinstein.
That you've got the two poles of that, right? You've got misogynists.
Did you need to just put a big bow on that?
I did.
Phil, you can move on to the next one.
Well, what?
I want to hear from Phil.
And then you got like the Chris Matthews, Aziz Ansari's kind of in the middle. You've got Trump on one end and the Weinstein's on the other. Trump walking free.
Weinstein not now. 23 years he got.
Yeah, I think he's in Rikers, right?
Well, I don't know, because I thought I read that they were finishing that up, and then they were carting him off to LA because there was another trial that was going to start. So they were literally putting him on a plane to ship him to LA.
I think the world is a safer place without him.
I don't think 23 years. I felt like 23 years was kind of like a little bit of a slap on the wrist.
He's a monster.
He's old as fuck, though. Do you think that walker is real? Like, he's walking around with a walker, and I'm like, is that just for optics?
Well, it certainly looks like it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's going to die in prison.
Yeah. If he's trying to look pathetic, he's doing a good job.
Yeah. He did look really pathetic. I sadly, I don't think there was enough press on that.
No, it got overshadowed.
Yeah.
But it's there. His victims saw it. His victims know it. Survivors have hopefully some small measure that it's possible with powerful men. Mm-hmm. But as you said, comparing him to the president, who's a predator, it's not everybody. So
I don't know how people can see past it. Every man has a woman in his life or has had a woman in his life, whether it's his mother or a wife or a daughter or a girlfriend, a girl who's a friend, whatever. Every woman is a woman. So how is there a person on the planet who cannot relate to how douchey this guy is?
Start with his daughter, right?
Yeah.
Daughter, wife, or whatever you want to call her. Can I say that?
Daughter, wife. I think Dan's feeling really uncomfortable right now. Let's move on to climate change. No, but seriously, okay, educate me on this. I have a friend who she's been referenced on this podcast probably every single week, Catherine KK. Yay. And that is climate change is the thing that she's like the dog with a bone.
Gets her out of bed.
And which rightfully so. But so she's seeing like her perspective on the election is through that lens, among others or whatever. But what do you think in terms of that particular topic, like, and how things are playing out?
It underlines every political campaign that I work on now. So on all of my candidates, we're talking about climate change and wherever possible, climate action. It is not getting enough traction with voters, but quite frankly, we're going to have to bring voters along on this one. It's too major.
What do you mean, bring them along? Like, what does that look like?
If you listen to podcasts or you listen to other political pundits, what they'll say is that climate change doesn't poll well, to which I say, fuck that. What you need to do is you need to lead by example. You know that there's a crisis coming. I mean, look at where we are now with this pandemic. You know that the crisis is coming. It is your job to lead voters and to educate voters into a position where they understand the issue more. And by the way, we're going to need every voter. This is not a red versus blue thing. We're going to need everybody. And so that means we're going to have to put up with a lot of false information coming from ridiculous people until they just talk themselves out. And the facts are still the facts.
Yeah.
The science is still the science. Where this issue is coming down on top of us. It's just slower than the exponential growth of coronavirus.
Right.
But it is massive. It is major. It is global. And we're going to have to make changes all over the place, not just in consumer behavior, but in how we govern ourselves.
Right. So in an election, right, we eventually always know who the VP candidate is going to be. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I've got limited knowledge on this, but when you're coming down to the wire on the elections, we don't ever really seem to get a peek into who the candidates' choices are for important cabinet positions or important initiative positions. So for example, if, are we going to hear from Trump and whoever the other opponent is going to be, like who they want to put in charge of climate action? Like that's an important position. Like that is a position that needs to be filled. Whatever, when I say position, I mean whatever that role is. But
right, it's an interesting question. It may be because of Joe Biden's age, and I do think he's going to be the nominee. I think it's just a matter of weeks, maybe days. If he pushes surrogates up into those roles sooner rather than later. It hasn't really been done historically, right, because most politicians will like to play their cards close to their chest. They like to keep their options open. You never know what's going to happen. Especially in this environment, there's so much uncertainty. The Canadian Prime Minister's wife came down with coronavirus yesterday or the day before.
Shit.
So it's a weird situation, but if this thing levels out in the next few months, I mean, Joe would benefit from having more surrogates for him on the road and sharing the burden of this thing.
That's what I think. I think for the at least for the issues that are like so in our face every single day, like I can think of 3 that if I knew right now, or when we have the confirmations, for example, that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee.
The transition period.
I would like to know who he's going to put in charge of climate change, immigration, even the CDC issue, right? And I don't know how accurate this is. You can confirm this, but like the story that so many of the CDC staff were let go 2 years ago, right? And these were never positions that were ever filled. And part of I guess there's probably a lot of reasons why things are happening, unfolding in the coronavirus situation the way they are. But those are big things that we need to know, or we should know, I think. What is your plan, and who are you going to help? Who is going to help you with that? Mm-hmm. Yeah or no? Am I just full of shit?
No, I think those are legitimate questions. Certainly, Biden gave a major speech on coronavirus. What was it, yesterday or the day before? I can't quote from it. Can you? Mm-mm. No. Everything is being overshadowed by events on the ground right now. Yeah. So the biggest picture thing to remind voters is that Trump is responsible for the screw-ups on this catastrophe as of right now. And just focus on the head. And
that's kind of the difference this time between last time, right? Is because we're really in a true referendum situation where
it is a referendum.
Trump has and so he's going to be the issue, right?
That's right.
So, do you have any thoughts about who the Democratic VP nominee should be?
No.
You don't?
No.
You're lying.
No.
Are you serious?
No,
you have an opinion. You have to.
He can't have an opinion on what if
Are
somebody
you serious?
wants to.
That's
I have
his job.
plenty of opinions.
No,
but
I
want to
know your Dan Mullen's opinion, not your indie politics.
I would love
father of 3 girls, Dan Mullen.
Yes,
Dead Dan Mullen. Voter Dan Mullen.
I would love to see a woman. I would love to see a woman of color. Yeah.
Keep going with that. Bring it.
I don't know.
There's a name. Come on. There's a name on the tip of your tongue. I know.
He's mentioned Stacey Abrams.
You don't want to keep it open?
Stacey Abrams. So I may not know a fuck ton about politics, but I will say, I'm going to say this right now. 2 weeks ago, I told my friend, I said, would you want to bet Stacey Abrams comes up in this conversation? And I am going to cheer if it does. And she's like,
she's in the conversation.
Stacey Abrams? No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think she'll be a big part of the conversation, don't you?
Yeah.
Probably not Andrew Gillum. Did you see that?
No, not Andrew.
Not Andrew.
I'm gonna do cartwheels if it's
investigations.
just because I'll feel like I knew enough that I actually predicted something. I mean, I love what she's doing. Also, I donated to her. Dang it, I forgot the name of the
Stacey, we'll get it in there.
Yeah, we'll have to do that in the show notes. I donated to that. Thank you to Pod Save America because they blasted it out every single episode, and I donated. I think it was only $20, but
nice.
It was
only $20.
Those guys are geniuses at fundraising.
They have a big
They have a huge audience. I think they've got 1 million plus listeners.
I gave money this cycle to 3 candidates, I think. I still feel bad about the Bloomberg, $20 to Bloomberg. What's he going to do with it?
He's not
It's like a tissue. I got a shirt out of it. So no, and Buttigieg and Kamala Harris.
Well, how do you say his last name really?
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I think a lot of people say it different ways. So Buttigieg.
Yeah, you're there.
I'm there. I'm almost a pro.
But yeah, so I'm just going to keep giving my little 10s and 20s.
That's great. You stay on fundraising lists that way.
Oh.
He's like, I know where you live.
He's here.
I definitely know where you live.
Let me give you his business card. Right?
He doesn't need it. It's already done.
All right. So you're not quite there, right? We've got a few months before.
I wanted to ask. Can I ask something?
Yes, of course.
How do you bring an issue like getting back to climate change? Because I made a mental note. But how do you bring an issue like climate change, which is a global issue, and how do you bring that locally into a place like Sonoma County or Marin County or Northern California?
Well, we're very fortunate in the North Bay to have so many voters who already find this issue to be very, very important. So the question then becomes, how do we make it relevant to their everyday lives? And so it's not necessarily just the highlighting of the problem. It's also about what are we going to do about it locally, whether that's a plastic bag ban or taxing. If you really wanted to go for it, you would tax carbon.
Right.
But I don't see that tax coming down the pipeline.
Are we ever going to get there nationally? Carbon tax-based climate system?
Probably not in the next 10 years, but maybe beyond.
I want to touch on this plastic bag ban because while I was in New York, the day that they had to stop having plastic bags, right? And they had this cute little 5-cent tax that you're not tax, but like if you go to the grocery store, do you need a bag? Yes. Okay. Extra 5 cents. Yeah. No, it's 5 cents in New York. And I'm like, cheaper. Oh, that's cute. It's 10 cents in California. But is there a place that we can go? And this is interesting because I think there's a lot of different situations in which people would want to know, is this really making a difference? So we have this plastic bag ban, right? Is it California wide or is it just here it's California wide? But people can still have plastic bags. They just pay 5 or 10 cents for them. Is that making a difference? I would love to know, where do I find out?
It's a slightly different issue than climate change per se.
Yeah.
So if we can get rid of plastics, we can certainly help to clean up our ocean over the next few hundred years. There could be better ways to do that, but at least we're stopping adding to the problem. From my perspective, the biggest thing that we can do on climate change is elect better leaders. The best thing that we can do is to put the right leaders in place to look at particular issues, to make changes, to get us carbon neutral by 2030. Is that doable?
Yeah, I guess really where I was going with that question was like, where do people go to find out and to get information about? Again, I know that this plastic bag ban is not going to fix the climate, but I